Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 9, No Way Out. This video is the first in a series of videos where I review episodes of The Walking Dead, so I'll have to give a spoiler warning for The Walking Dead up to Season 6, Episode 9. If you haven't seen Episode 9, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise things will be spoiled for you. So a lot of people were disappointed with the mid-season finale, but I heard somewhere that they actually split what was meant to be the mid-season finale into two episodes, so this episode was originally intended to be the mid-season finale. However, I thought the cliffhanger worked very well, so ultimately I liked what they did here. So let me start off with Negan's group, where the episode begins. So I misunderstood this scene, which is continued from the post-credit scene in the mid-season finale, where the group of bikers pull guns on Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha and tell them that all their stuff now belongs to Negan. Because I thought the guy saying this was Negan. Even when they killed him, I was like, wait, they can't kill Negan. He's supposed to be this big badass villain from the comic books. Many comic book readers refer to him as the best villain on The Walking Dead. But a lot of you are probably thinking I'm silly because you knew all along that wasn't Negan, and come on, it was so easy. You should have been able to tell. Because, they revealed the actor who's going to play Negan. But I don't know who that actor is. I've never read the comic books. I had no idea who Negan was, so I thought it was this guy. It's just the way that he was acting like the group leader. It made me think it was Negan. It took me a little while to realize, oh, wait, that it isn't Negan. Because honestly, I didn't think that Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham were making it out of there. That was my assumption when I saw the mid-season finale. I thought they would be taken hostage and they'd have a whole separate storyline this season having to deal with these dudes. But when it looked like the guy that I thought was Negan was going to kill Sasha and Abraham, that's when I knew I was wrong. I did think it was possible they could kill Sasha and or Abraham because those two are kind of expendable. I knew that they wouldn't kill Daryl. He's too much of a fan favorite. But yeah, I was kind of glad when Daryl just blew those guys to hell with that little rocket launcher thingy, so they could just go back and join the main storyline rather than having to deal with those assholes anymore. However, it did seem a bit anticlimactic how easily they were defeated. They just introduced these guys in the post-credit scene, and the very next scene they're blown to hell. Seems to happen a bit too quickly. But I know that we're going to see a lot more of this group who are apparently known to people who've read the comic books as the Saviors. But still, that particular conflict seemed to play out a bit too quickly for my taste. So then we get to my biggest issue with the episode. When we get back to Rick and his little group who are disguised as walkers, because at the end of the last episode, the little boy, Sam, I think his name is, was saying, "Mom!" quite loudly, and it looked like he was going to give away the position to the walkers. In fact, that was the main cliffhanger of the mid-season finale. So then when we jump back to this episode, they act like that scene never happened. In fact, I do get the impression they were trying to pretend it didn't happen and just erase it from history. They seem to go back a little bit in time when Rick and his group first started walking out as walkers, and this time he never says that, which is fucking stupid. You can't just pretend a scene didn't happen. And if you argue, well, that's not what they're doing, they just didn't re-show it this time, then at the very least there should have been consequences for him screaming "Mom" like that. I heard another reviewer point out that they thought Sam was being louder when he said "Mom" than he was when he actually did get bit, and I totally agree with that. If I were to guess, I would say they had originally planned for him to get bit right at the start when he was saying "Mom," but for some reason, when it came time to do the episode, they changed their minds and wanted it to happen a bit later in the episode, so they tried to just pretend like that never happened, which again is total BS. You can't just pretend that a scene didn't happen. I'm sorry, but that really bothered me. Other than that, though, those scenes were really tense. It was tense when Father Gabriel took baby Judith, died in a church, but I knew they'd make it because baby Judith has plot armor. Plus, I personally wouldn't find it interesting if they killed off baby Judith like that. Anyway, we get to another misstep, in my opinion, is when Sam refuses to go with Gabriel and Judith to the church. Why would he do this? You know, I understand they tried to play this off like he wanted to stick close to his mother, which makes sense, but he should already be totally freaked out by the walkers at this point. It doesn't make sense to me that they showed him before being freaked out and losing his shit, and now he's fine again and willing to stay out amongst the walkers, and then he loses his shit again. I'm not really buying that. The more realistic thing would be for him to be totally on board with going to the church, but him trying to convince his mom to come with him, which would have made a lot more sense. But then again, the plot, well, they just had to do things for the plot. You know, and it was obvious they had this scene that they wanted to play out, so they had all these characters act out of character in order to set up the plot that they wanted, and it was really quite contrived. However, I did really like how it was Sam remembering what Carol told him about how he would be ripped apart by walkers is what got him all freaked out in the first place and let him be ripped to shreds by walkers. So it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So in a way, this was all Carol's fault for freaking him out so much. However, after Sam got eaten by the walkers and Jesse started screaming and freaking out, I don't know why Rick and Michonne didn't just go into kick-ass mode right then. They should have realized her screaming like that would obviously attract more walkers, and they should have realized that the gig was up, and instead of simply letting her be eaten by walkers. Because they did go into kick-ass mode once Carl got shot, but if they went into kick-ass mode earlier, Jesse would still be alive. Carl would not have gotten shot in the first place. Also, I want to back up a bit because before all this happened and I saw Carl taking Ron's hand and helping him out, this reminded me all too much of what happened between Glenn and Nicholas. Nicholas tried to kill Glenn, Ron tried to kill Carl, and in both cases, they stopped the attempt, but instead of exposing them, they stick by them and try to help them out. So basically, it's just a repeated story beat. And because it didn't work out too well for Glenn and almost got him killed, I knew that it wouldn't work out for Carl either, so I wasn't the least bit surprised that it led to Carl getting shot in the eye. Well, to be clear, I was shocked when Carl got shot. That really surprised me. I just wasn't surprised that Carl helping Ron out backfired on him. That was totally predictable. And in some ways, I feel the show has become a bit too predictable. That being said, I did overall find the scene super intense, really shocking, and this is what The Walking Dead does best. However, I was sad to see Jesse go because it seemed like we spent so much time on her building her up and they just kill her off and her whole family immediately before it really goes anywhere. But oh well, that's The Walking Dead for you. So let's talk about Denise and the wolf because I found that a bit interesting. It seemed to be the wolf was trying to turn Denise into a wolf. Maybe because they needed a medic, but he did seem like he was trying to turn her around to his philosophy, but the opposite almost seemed to happen. After all, he risked himself for her and got bit because of it, and so she was willing to save him, and he seemed surprised by it. Now, I remember saying earlier that I was kind of sick of The Walking Dead repeating the same story beats over and over and over about how showing your enemy mercy always ends horribly, which is why Morgan's current mindset upsets a lot of people. And so to me it would seem like it would be infinitely more interesting if the show broke from repeating the same plot point and instead showed that showing mercy as a positive, which is kind of what they did with Morgan's flashback episode, but I think they need to do it a bit more in present times. So that's what I thought they were going to do here by having Denise turn the wolf to be on their side, thus proving Morgan's strategy of keeping him alive correct. But nope, Carol shoots him. But to be clear, this didn't bother me. In fact, I really liked it because the wolf died saving Denise. So now you have this dynamic where Carol is going to question her philosophy. So in a way, it is kind of showing the bright side of Morgan's philosophy, which I like. To me, the Morgan-Carol conflict is only interesting if Morgan seems to be making a good point, and so far he comes off as an idiot. But the fact that Carol was wrong about the wolf and he sacrificed himself to save Denise completely supports Morgan's position. It doesn't prove him right, not by a long shot, but it makes this conflict a lot more interesting. Which, getting back to Carol and how she was saying she should have killed Morgan, she's probably re-examining that now after what happened with the wolf. So that's going to make the Carol-Morgan relationship a hell of a lot more interesting, and I can't wait to see where they go with it. I know a lot of people are predicting Morgan's demise, but personally I hope they don't go that way and take it in a different direction, because I'd really like to see something new, an unexpected plot line, rather than just repeating the same beats over and over again, which is one of my main issues with The Walking Dead overall. And I gotta say, so far it looks really promising, so I can't wait to see where they take it. So, Glenn wasn't in this episode too much, but I found his stuff with Enid really satisfying. It was mainly a continuation of their storyline from the mid-season finale, which I thought was pulled off pretty well. However, when it looked like they were going to kill him, I was a bit worried because, that would suck to have him miraculously come back to life by hiding under a dumpster only to kill him off several episodes later. But thank God Abraham and Sasha show up to save the day with their assault weapons. And I did overall really like the storyline with Rick freaking out and just going out and killing the walkers with an axe. That seemed so much like exactly the sort of thing that Rick would do. He just watched this woman he had a thing for be eaten alive by walkers. His son was shot and his life hung in the balance. And so Rick isn't just going to stand there hoping everything will be okay. He's going to go out there and kick some ass, which is exactly what he did. And I liked how it snowballed, where slowly more and more people came out to help him, when finally pretty much the whole town was out there hacking and slashing zombies. And so Rick has finally realized the importance of this community, and the community has finally realized the importance of Rick, which I do believe is the long-term story arc this season has been on so far, and I think it played out really nicely here. I think this was the perfect way to resolve it, and I was totally satisfied with it. However, I wonder how many Alexandrians are actually still alive after this. I'd say their numbers are probably reduced by at least half, but that's just my guess. So my rating for No Way Out is a 9. Excellent. I know I nitpicked this episode a lot in this review, but most of those complaints were minor, and really they just held this episode back from being a 10, because overall I was really impressed with this episode, as it was exciting, it was brutal, it had me on the edge of my seat the whole time, because really one of the strengths of The Walking Dead is you never know who's going to die next. So when Glenn is in danger and backed into the corner, you actually believe he could die, and I think the storyline with the whole town coming together against impossible odds and prevailing was a really exciting one, and I would hold this episode up as a high point of The Walking Dead. As for next week's episode, the trailer was kind of vague, so if I were to guess, I'd probably say it's going to be a slow filler episode, which I think makes sense because this episode kind of had a firm conclusion, so I think that they need to slowly build up the next conflict with the Saviors, and so we're going to get a few slow character building episodes coming up, but that's just my guess. So that's it for my review of No Way Out. Be sure to check back here every week for a review on the latest episode of The Walking Dead. Also check out my channel for reviews of The X-Files, Better Call Saul, and Vikings. The last two are coming back this week as well, and I try to do at least one Game of Thrones video a week, so make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.